is the
8 minutes after 9. Good morning and welcome to the final hour of the Situation Room this morning. We are glad that you are here, you are tuned in, and you're following the conversation. Siti, remind us why we should be thinking about Del Monte as we go into Christmas.
Well, it's really very simple. Yes, from a purely health perspective.
Yes.
You want to ask yourself, how do you ensure that your entire body system functions well? Well, by ensuring that you give it the right food. Now, whether you're talking about vitamin B, whether we're talking about vitamin C, whether you're talking about potassium, whether you're talking about liver health, whether you're talking about your eyes, the truth of the matter is, when you have a fruit and you're told that one of those fruits per day keeps the doctor away, imagine if that fruit is in a much easier consumable form, liquid. Because that's what Del Monte offers you. It offers you the same goodness in liquid form. Real fruit.
Liquefied fruit.
It is a fruit. It's in liquid form. Even the tomato, which we know is a vegetable, in liquid form.
He was very, Jimmy was very, very happy when you gave him the tomato.
Can
you imagine why?
He understands the benefits of
gets
tomato.
it.
No, he gets it.
He gets. Lydia is saying now, because we have Dennis Aseto as our guest today, mgeni siku ya kwanza
lazima
mpe juice moja.
Pia bwana
mgeni siku ya kwanza unajua.
Dennis uko na bahati.
Wewe unasema Kiswahili. Nitakupatia gold ili wajua.
dhahabu ile.
Sawa.
CT, you said I take the gold, yeah?
Yeah, take the gold.
Thank you.
It's called what?
It's actually Del Monte Gold Pineapple. Yes.
Dennis, just so that we understand each other, mgeni is today, eh?
Mgeni siku ya kwanza.
Siku ya pili aende shambani.
Siku ya pili
I know his brother.
aende shambani. Tomorrow you're looking for
that thing of mgeni. It's done.
Kuna juice. Kesho shamba. Yeah. Jimmy, as we continue the conversation, let me tell you about what something KCB Foundation has been doing. All right. Looking at the levels of unemployment in the country, saying, all right, so yeah, all of us have, we can all see, but what can we do? And KCB Foundation, a couple of years ago in 2016, they started a program, they called it Tujiajiri program. And they said, in this Tujiajiri program, what we want to do is to empower the youth, particularly those who, leave school and they are not able to go into college for one reason or another. How do we support them to go into college, to get a skill? And then beyond the skill, how do we even support them into starting a journey towards employment, and self-employment being a big one here? So they have partnered with several TVETs. And then they have a program where they say, come in and apply. And they pick several applicants. Those applicants go through TVET, sponsored by KCB Tujiajiri. And then after that, as they're going through the training, they're also trained on how to, bookkeeping, financial management, plus financial literacy. It's not that when you make your first sale for whatever, you go and kule yo pesa yote kurudishia mwili shukrani. No. Think about how you shall grow this biashara of yours to become bigger. Think of the dreams that you have. Can you write down those dreams? Can you work towards that? Goal setting and goal management. All that, KCB Tujiajiri program has been doing it. They have trained and they have supported thousands of youth who have graduated and they've, started their own enterprises.
Congrats.
And they're doing it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
We'll be interviewing some of them. We've told them, we want the people who have actually gone through this program and they have started some work to come. Some of them we've seen. There's a guy in Lodwar. He dropped out of school. He wanted to go into college. He was not able to go into college, school fees and all. He applied for the KCB Tujiajiri program. He got into that program. He went and trained. Now he is doing water projects for his community. And he has employed a couple of people.
See, part of the program doesn't just kwajiri you. They also give you the wherewithal. If it's equipment that you require, some fundamental and perhaps a little too expensive for someone to afford, it's part of what they do to package that process so that you are actually able to do what it is that you're trained to do. Yes. So the beneficiaries, Eric and I actually saw the video, the clip that these individuals who, two of them who had benefited, were speaking about what it is that they're doing and how they're doing it. And when you look at it, you realize, yes, without that input from KCB, these individuals would not have been able to do what they're doing. Yes, they may have had the knowledge, but just to get and go and move along in the absence of that. But it's not just the equipment. They will also give you a little finance to help you chug along as you move around the business.
Very good.
So it's something they've actually thought.
I hope they're being very generous about in terms of the amount of money they're giving.
Yes. And
Yes.
even the rate.
Yes.
Even the rate is single-digit interest rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have partnered with a very, very huge manufacturer of some very serious equipment. Bosch, I believe, is how they pronounce it.
Good.
Yes, exactly. So when I say it's a 360, it is. They really ensure that whatever it is they've trained you for, you're able to move along. None of these were you and Likua. None of these were you and Likua.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, very good.
Siti,
Yes, please.
the Proverbs for this week are from the kingdom of
Lesotho.
Lesotho. Is it Lesotho, Lesotho, Lesotho?
What do you think?
Jimmy, what is it? That
Lesotho.
Well, actually, it is Lesotho.
Okay.
Okay, since you asked me the question, okay, a Kenya, one person from Kenya is called Kenyan.
Kenyan.
Okay, one person from Lesotho is called who?
Lesotho.
Okay, this is the problem of.
Dennis, what's your...
Plead the fifth.
What's your guess?
I plead the fifth.
Take a guess, boy.
Take a guess, Chief.
What's that?
One person,
One person.
yes, from Lesotho is called
Lesotho.
All right. Thank you for guessing. One person is called Amosotho.
Amosotho.
Yes. People are called Basotho, like Bakongo and Bakenya. Okay. The language is called Sesotho.
Lesotho.
Yes, that's the language.
I like that.
And the country, of course, you know, is
Leso.
okay. So now you know.
Ayabas. The proverb?
The proverb from this delightful country: cattle are born with ears, horns grow later.
Cattle are born
They're
with
born.
ears.
The ears are born with the good. The growing is for the horns.
Horns grow later.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Jimmy, leo tumesema kuja uongee ikutoke. Okay. Iseme ikutoke. You're saying there are two causes of action that you see that you'd like, people to rally on. One of them is direct, complete civil disobedience. Stop paying taxes.
Why do you say civil disobedience?
Well,
Stopping to pay tax, surely.
You see, the government itself has caused disobedience to us. It's the cause. They have broken their social contract with us.
so two wrongs make a right.
Their fiscal social contract with us. And we have one very clear responsibility in our constitution. We must protect it and ensure that it is obeyed.
Ensure fidelity.
And one of the ways we do it is through civil action. Not disobedience. Civil action. Mandamano was civil actions. The tax revolution is civil action, not disobedience. City challenged me about disobedience
Yes, I
to
did.
the law.
Yes, I did.
And I want to quote the law here from the Supreme Court. In their ruling, E031, E032, E033 of 2024, delivered on the 29th of October. This was on the Finance Bill 2023.
Yes.
They said, and I like to say that they overgrew their creature, the interpretation that was before them was Article 220, 221 A, B, and C, which requires that the budgets of the national and county governments shall contain estimates of revenue and expenditure, differentiating between recurrent and development expenditure, and B, proposing for financing any anticipated deficit for the period of which they apply. The spirit of the Constitution clearly demonstrates that tax revenue and other estimates must match the expenditure, and none can exist without the other, as the revenues finance the expenditure. All right? So the makers of the Constitution were fairly clear. We are looking for a balanced budget. In other words, what we spend should be covered by what we collect. And if there is any anticipation of any difference, that is our deficit, our shortfall, it must be stated and must show where it goes on the expenditure side, because it is considered as revenue. Now, these provisions, if you go on further, right, are anchored very well in Article 221(1). It goes on to 221(3), and it goes on to 221(4), which requires the National Assembly to consider the estimates of revenue and expenditure, all right, and present and table to the House. It is also clear that the National Assembly is required by the Constitution to discuss and review the estimates of expenditure, the budget required as in Article 1. It goes on, Article 2215, discussing and reviewing the estimates. It goes on, right, to be actualized in PFM, Public Finance Management Act of 2012, which says in 37(9), requires upon approval of the budget estimates are both revenue and expenditure, as per Article 221 of the Constitution, by the National Assembly. The Cabinet Secretary shall prepare and submit an appropriation bill of the approved estimates. The estimates are revenue and expenditure to the National Assembly. The appropriation bill, the Appropriation Act, is envisaged and is stated in PFM in line with the Constitution 221 to carry both revenue and expenditure. Now, the government since 2014 has not been doing that. If you look at the budget for 2013, 2014, it was doing so. From 2014, it refused to do so. And this was a challenge in the finance bill. Why are the revenue estimates not in the appropriation bill? The Court of Appeal ruled that is correct. They should be they should be together, and nullified the finance bill of 2023. The Supreme Court in 2020 had given a concerted opinion on the same and said you have no appropriation bill without both revenue and expenditure estimates. And now, all of a sudden, in October, they say that revenue estimates do not have to be part of the appropriation bill. Voila, eureka moment for them. We wonder why. But the key thing is that they have misinterpreted the Constitution.
Which they now previously interpreted correctly.
Correctly. Now, and even the Court of Appeal had based their opinion in part on that Supreme Court ruling 2 years before. Now, it means then the tax revenue is not anchored in the appropriation estimates. Tax revenue does not form part of the budget, according to the Supreme Court. Does not. So why are we paying? We are paying an illegality. The government is today collecting tax by false pretenses. Article 313, according to the Supreme Court. Yes, according to this ruling.
That's a very
Article
generous
313.
interpretation, Jimmy.
A generous what?
Interpretation of that.
Why do you say generous?
Because if the argument here is on the structure of the budget, right, does it necessarily touch on the fact of funding of government, of revenue? So revenue estimates are not part. Let's even go with that. Are not necessarily part of this budget document.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that there is no revenue raising.
But how do you revenue raise if you're not raising for the budget?
Is that what they've said?
That's what the law says.
No, that's not
the law says you revenue raise. That was the basis of the challenge of the Finance 2023 bill.
Is that what the Supreme Court
basis
said?
of the challenge of the finance bill, which is a revenue raising measure, was that it is not anchored in the appropriation bill revenue estimates. That was the basis of the challenge. This has been challenged for the last 1 year.
So your interpretation here
so
is
the
that
clarity is
all
that
the
you
tax
cannot, if you are not part of revenue raising appropriation bill, if you're not part of the revenue estimates, how are you revenue raising in the finance bill?
The question
I'm asking
is, what are you part of then?
So are you?
No, you don't exist.
So your interpretation is that all the tax laws, therefore, are null and void.
What are tax laws? Are they not revenue raising?
Yeah.
So what?
So they're null and void.
For what? For what?
To fund
what are you raising? To fund where? Where is that anchored? In law. It's all anchored in law.
Yeah.
Where is it anchored? Where is it anchored?
You can go back.
First and foremost, it is anchored in the budget.
I'm asking you, so your interpretation.
It is anchored in the budget. And it is anchored in the budget revenue estimates.
It's okay, Jimmy. I'm asking you. So your interpretation of the Supreme Court decision is that all tax laws are therefore invalid.
All tax revenue raising measures and laws are completely invalid.
That's what you're...
Absolutely.
Based off the interpretation.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go into now seeing how to practically implement what your interpretation is.
Oh.
So you say that you, Jimmy Wanjigi, are stopping to pay tax.
Yes.
You, Jimmy Wanjigi. Have you stopped? Have you started?
I'm completely stopping. Yes. I will not file any tax return.
Like you told us, very many indirect taxes.
I will not file any tax return.
There are very many indirect taxes that we pay.
Yeah.
How will you stop paying?
I will pay cash. And I'll convince the vendor to accept my cash, and I don't want a receipt.
For whatever cash you pay, there is the indirect tax embedded in it. Whether you're paying by card or by cash.
I am going to ask that there is no platform.
If you buy fuel today,
this is the civil action. The civil action is this. It's a concerted civil action. We are not going to give what is legally not bound for us to give. Number two, the government anyway has broken our social contract. So it is a point of civil disobedience.
So how do we do
and
it?
if we mobilize, hold on. If we mobilize the thousands of us not to do so, what action can the government take?
That's what I'm asking. So
they can't.
Give the roadmap.
I've given a roadmap.
What do we...
I am asking.
When you go to buy
I am
bread...
asking. Very simply this.
When you go to buy bread today and it has 16% VAT and there's excise in it, or when you're buying airtime and there's excise in it, when you're transferring money, there's excise in it, or even either mobile money or from your bank and there's excise in it, how are you going to avoid that? How will you stop paying 16% VAT on fuel?
Well, there are many items that you cannot. I accept. There are many items that are structured that you cannot. But there are also very many items that you can. Today, civil disobedience is already happening. If you go around a lot of Kirinyaga Road, if you go down Grogan, where you can issue a receipt, you can throw that receipt book in the dustbin tomorrow. The more we are off the grid, the better. I'm asking those of us who are like-minded to say we are not going to file tax returns. What can you do when we don't file them? How many of us are you going to arrest? And arrest us with what? I am one. Charge me. I'll show you how the Supreme Court has told us we do not have to pay.
Jimmy, let me paint a picture.
All right? Let me be that case. Let me be that case that opens up the door. All right? That sets a precedence for others not to pay. Because it's clear. Civil disobedience begins somewhere. It begins with the one person that goes on the street and says, I am prepared, right, to be arrested for my rights. Yes, Dennis?
Jimmy Wanjigi, we live in a country where a lot of Kenyans are unemployed. And part of the documents that they need clearance for them to get employment is clearance by the taxman. So if you're telling them not to file returns and they get an opportunity to get jobs, how do they go about it?
But how do they file returns when they've been unemployed?
But it is a requirement of the law.
How do they file returns?
They do.
Do you understand how ridiculous it is? That's how ridiculous it is. No, but filing for who? You've been unemployed, you have no job. What tax returns are you filing? It's ridiculous. Come on, guys.
It's just
you are just being conditioned. It's the same way.
Actually, no.
Dennis, we talked about a system of oppression and exploitation and domination. Here you are again, right? Being made to be dominated and exploited.
But we're talking about
this
the law.
This is the Mzungu who came out and said the hard tax, you must pay in a rupee. And when you couldn't, right, forced you to slave labor. This is what's going on here.
Or took your livestock.
Okay, and took your lives. Or took your livestock, correct. Okay, this is enough. This is part of civil disobedience. Stop telling us to conform. We are not going to conform. You say we are not filing that return. That's what happens, Dennis. Right? So think out of the box. We say we are not going to file that return. We are not going to do what you're asking us to do. We are objecting to this nonsense. Right? Because it is part of conditioning us, dominating us, extracting from us.
Jimmy, you know where the disconnect is? This is something you have clearly given thought.
Yes.
Us, we're beginning to give it thought now.
Correct.
Okay?
Okay.
All right?
Agreed.
Yes. And we are thinking of, if I may use the word conditioning, of what it is we think will happen if we do not pay tax.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, civil disobedience, I think, is actually permissible in our constitution. See, since we're taking liberties, if you think it isn't, then tell me. But this is my thought. Okay?
That's the interpretation.
That's my interpretation. Now, if what you are arguing, when you say don't pay taxes, it's omnious and it conjures up all manner of terrible things that will happen to me. I don't want to go that route. So let me look at it this way, that you're saying, if I pay taxes as currently prescribed, then what I'm doing is I'm feeding a certain beast, which beast has been responsible for all the pain and aches that I've been experiencing. And by continuing to pay, I'm actually paying for my own discomfort.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying. And on top of that, we have an out. But let me take you back to an example that you've given, that you are worried about outcomes.
Completely.
In relation to civil disobedience that you say is in our constitution.
It is.
Now, there was a time in this country, in the advent of the second liberation, that so-called civil disobedience was not allowed in our constitution.
Completely.
You could not assemble without a letter from the policeman or the chief. You could not, even as an MP, could not address a baraza without a letter from a chief. You couldn't meet in your house more than 5 people without a letter from your local police station, let alone have a rally. And people said at one point, I'm sorry, enough is enough.
Is more than
and
enough.
we are going to break that barrier. That is why we have the civil disobedience that you're talking about, that Ruto is now trying to claw back on, that you cannot assemble. Okay? We have that freedom because people took the step. Unlike a lot of our neighbors, they don't have that freedom in their constitutions because they've never taken the steps. We are so reformed. This is now the next phase. This is now, we are walking down what you call the path of our economic liberation. We've gone through our political. And economic liberation is our pocket. And we can refuse to feed this monster. The power is in our pocket. We can refuse to participate. That becomes our civil disobedience. And what are they going to do? How many thousands are you going to lock up? You don't even have the money to lock us up. You won't even have the fuel to fuel your vehicles to come and arrest us. You won't have your bullets to shoot us. So let us withdraw that money. Let us withdraw it from this monster. Okay? Until this monster accepts that it has failed and needs to change. And this opens up a whole new political direction for future generations. The power is with us. As envisaged in the Constitution, it is the people, not the government. Not these so-called represented agents. It is us. We can say no. And I can assure you, that's all it takes. The one person. Tunisia, it took one person to go and burn themselves in the street. And it started what you call the Arab Spring. Kenya, we are already in revolution mode. Gen Z began it. And they began it so well, it's still there. It's not over. It's not over. This is now just contributing to the process. We withdraw any support to this monster by making sure we do not feed it from our pockets.
You know, that conversation of the odious debt was palatable to me. I liked it. And why I liked it, there's a reason why. Because the picture had been painted and the justification provided as to how it is. There are monies we are told we owe, and yet we actually don't owe. And that we don't owe them is relevant because we still pay for it. Okay? And in the absence of that payment, the argument then followed was, whatever it is we collect in terms of revenue was actually more than adequate to just sort out our problems and we can go our merry way.
CT, I love this. I love this. I love you bringing us to the issue. The issue is, what are we funding? 70% today of our taxes is going to that ODS debt. This time last year, debt was at about 10.5 trillion shillings. In the last financial year, we paid almost 1.6 trillion to that debt.
We paid.
We paid. 2023, 2024, we paid 1.6 trillion to that debt. All right? Remember, it was 10.5. Today, what do we owe? 10.8.
We paid 10.5.
No, 10.5 this time last year, December last year.
Is what we owed.
Was what we owed.
And we paid
in that financial year from June 2023 to June 2024,
yes,
we paid 1.6
trillion. So if we minus,
yes,
you get to 9 point.
Okay. Dennis, you get what?
9 point something trillion.
Right. Today, central bank figures are showing that we owe 10.8.
Okay.
Okay. And this year, we are paying 1.855 trillion to it. 1.855
so we
trillion.
moved from 1.6, we're now paying
1.8 this financial year.
Yes.
Okay. And yes, next year is going to 2.1. Okay. Right? The year after that, 2.2. And we can take this trajectory all the way to 2034. And nobody can tell you where this money went. Nobody.
But we're paying.
But we are paying.
So where are we paying it to?
And when I gave you the summary last time, I think that's what you're going on very well. That if you look at the last 10 years, 2013 July to 2023,
yes,
you had what we'll call the primary accounts. That's what you're remembering.
Yes, yes.
And the primary accounts show this. What was our expenditure? What was our tax return? Our expenditure, including all the development expenditure stated, which was about 6 trillion in 10 years. Our counties, our salaries, our pensions, our operations were 14.6 trillion. Right? Without debt payments, remove debt payments. And then you look at our income from tax revenue, 13.3
trillion.
So we had a deficit
of just one EV.
One EV.
Yes.
But we went and borrowed 7.7. And 6.4 trillion above what we needed.
And yet the shortfall
was only one.
But we went and borrowed another 7.
Yes. And in that time, take note, in that time, we have paid 7 trillion.
We have already paid 7
Yes, in loan repayments.
Right.
All right. Remember, we only had a shortfall of 1.
Yes.
We paid 7 trillion by June 2023.
But what we owe
was we only needed 1.4.
All right.
Right? But we borrowed 7.7.
And we've paid 7.
And in that period of 10 years, we paid 7. Okay. This thing is never ending. So why are we feeding it? Because if you can show me what all these trillions have done in this country for us, I'll accept. Now, to show you the sadness of it is this. Very simply, you can see the issues we're having even in schools, grade 9 and so on. Okay? This year, we are paying 1.855 trillion in debt. We don't know what it is for. We don't know where it went to, so what it's about.
We've actually been told.
Okay? 1.855 trillion. 70%, okay,
yes,
of our estimated revenue. And those revenues, by the way, are really coming down. Okay? They're really coming down. The estimates are really short, I think, today over 40 billion, just in the last 4 months. Now, you imagine to fund education in this country as it is today. You have 10 million kids in primary school, right? Give them 4,000 shillings per year. That funds everything. That's 40 billion. It funds everything. It funds the salaries of teachers, funds everything. Take another 4 in high school. 4 million, because that's the drop-off rate is about 6 million. 4 million in high school. Give them 20,000. That is 80 billion. 80 plus 40, 120. And then go to university, you have 250,000. 250,000, the average plan, let's say, is about 300,000. They normally say a government a third, or rather a loan a third, a parent a third, and you can say government a third. Those 3 portions. So let's say you are paying 100,000 per student. That's another 25B. All right? So 145B funds our entire education system as it stands today with the numbers per year.
And yet,
and a parent will only take out money at university. At university, you have no teacher strikes, you will have nothing. A parent maybe will only buy uniform at best, at most, rather. Okay? Right? 145B. We are spending 1.9 almost trillion on debt we don't know what it's about. Do you see the tragedy? So really, why are we feeding this monster?
See, why I like that conversation, it's actually very far removed from me. Taxes is here.
It's here.
Yes. And if I don't pay taxes, the consequences are also just here.
Yes.
What are your consequences?
Let's take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break. Then I'll come back and
so
tell
you said, the indirect taxes that you're saying that may be difficult to implement. The direct taxes may be also difficult to implement because the direct taxes, unless you, for example, you're an employer, are you saying that you're not deducting payee and SHIF and what's the other one, SSF and housing from your employers to remit to the government? Eric, okay, you'll tell us.
Yes.
21 minutes to 10 o'clock. Jimmy Wanjigi is our guest today. We've been talking about the KCB to Jiajiri program and how it has benefited very many youth. 150,555 jobs created, 35,195 youth trained. How does it work? It works in 3 phases. One phase, it sponsors youth at 18 to 34 in technical training institutions, that's TVETs, equipping them with skills or upskilling them so they can attain NITA certification. And then the second bit is the program incubates the enterprises created by these students by offering business development services. They get one-on-one mentorship on how to register a business, how to create a business, how to have a business plan and all. And then when they graduate and they're ready with their ideas and they've been vetted for bankability, they receive credit that they qualify for to advance their business interests. This is also the point where the KCB Foundation exits and where the KCB now comes in and starts offering them the credit. And it is at affordable rates. You want to learn more information? Go to kcbgroup.com/foundation. That's kcbgroup.com/foundation. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
Coco, what are you doing here? Nimechoka na kukaa na mtoto wako for 8
block. And traffic will be moving very, very, very slowly. Thika Road is beginning to clear up. Simply because I think that the destination that people are heading to, many of them have reached. And from this moment onwards, expect to have clearer and clearer roads. But that intersection with Haile Selassie will still have a problem, simply because something similar to what is happening on Mombasa Road is what is taking place over there. Some tunnel is being dug up, and it is causing a bit of a problem. In fact, as of this morning, whatever had been dug up was looking like a lake. That is what happens when it rains. Good people, please drive carefully. Be conscious of the fact that they are the road users, not necessarily in vehicles, whether they're walking, whether they're on bicycles, whether they're on tuk-tuks. They're road users like you. Have a lovely day.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Now we continue for the next 16 minutes with Jimmy Wanjigi. So you said there were 2 causes of action. We come back to the tax one. What's the second one?
I don't know why you want to drive me when you've not finished Katakodi.
Yeah?
Katakodi is imperative. But anyway, we'll go to the next one.
Yes.
The next one is simply this. We must understand that the power the Constitution gave us is supreme. Article 1 enables us to get back power from our donated agents. One of William Ruto's biggest fears is forming the Electoral Commission. IEBC is going to be his biggest monster. And I'll tell you why. Not because there are many, maybe a couple of MPs who want to quit his party and go into other parties. But it's because he has knowledge of a referendum that we intend to take. That referendum is a people's initiative to amend the constitution for an early election. We are certain that we will get the requisite numbers from the people to have a popular initiative, a people's initiative, to have a referendum that, in a sense, cuts short the term of William Samoei Ruto and his deputy. And we intend to do so next year. Let him form that IEBC ataona chemte makoni.
Explain that.
It's very simply this.
So a constitutional
Referendum.
a referendum to amend the constitution to call for an early election.
Yes, to cut short.
And this thing happens in 2025, so the early election will be in 2026.
No, why? Why not in 2025? The intention of that amendment, which is before the court, is that within 14 days of passing that, he should vacate office. If he vacates office, the speaker holds on to for 60 days. We must have an election. So why do you say 2026?
So what is the amendment here? Is it a constitutional amendment?
Yes,
to change
it's a
the date of the
constitutional
election?
amendment to amend
it
the term of the current holder. Current holder of the office. We are not trying to say we want to amend it in totality. It's to amend for the current holder of office.
So to impeach the president?
Yes. Outside of parliament. Because the impeachment process is a parliamentary process, and we've seen parliament is already eaten up by him. So we are going by the popular initiative, wananchi to decide. Wananchi to decide. And judging by the mood we can feel in the country, we are certain that that is going to be a fantastic campaign. A fantastic campaign.
I am impressed by the pursuit of processes of this nature in accordance with the law. But there's a question that always lingers whenever one has discussions such as this one. What next? Because you want to say, let President Ruto be impeached. I guess he opened that door with the impeachment of Gachagua. Because the requirements for impeaching your deputy is the same as the requirements for impeaching you. That door was opened, I understand. And then we have an election. And then how do we know that we are going to find ourselves in a position where the problems that we've discussed in detail and then some, we will actually see the beginning of them being resolved? How?
CT,
Yes.
stop being a pessimist.
This is not pessimism.
This is what is called a growth point. Let me assure you, the minute there is a head of state that knows, you don't even have 5 years. This rug can be pulled under your feet any day. Your whole attitude when you sit there is very different. Number two.
I do agree with that point. Yes.
The question of that contest, that election, will be exactly what you're asking. We actually want fundamental change. Fundamental, not cosmetic. Not cosmetic. And it is the messenger of the fundamental change that will win that election. I can assure you of that.
Me, I'm doubtful.
And if not that election, the next one.
I'm doubtful because the people electing these leaders whom we propose are the same Kenyans who elected the current president.
And the same Kenyans who came out during the Gen Z riots.
Yes.
And I can assure you, those ones have a very different barometer.
They do.
To the ones that elected William Samoei Ruto in 2022. You must remember, and let's put those votes into context. The largest voter was 8 million that did not participate.
Yes. Was it one particular age set or was it a mixed bag?
It was mostly younger people who did not participate. You also had another 4 million that were eligible that did not go and take votes.
Yes.
So you have a very large constituency, estimated at roughly 70%. That is a whole new breed of voters in terms of their thinking,
So we are saying
and their thinking
yes,
is based on what we saw during the Gen Z. They understand the economic revolution. They understand not only the economic revolution, but there's some fundamental things that need to change here. They are not interested in the old politics. They're not. They are not interested in the old politics of chieftains and tribal leaders and demagogues. They are not. They are not even interested in the old political class. They are not. That does not represent their thinking or their minds. And in fact, the old political class are unable to talk to them about what their true ideals are. They're not there. So we are evolving so fast, so fast, that you cannot believe it. I say this with a lot of confidence because even the advent of multi-party democracy had those doubting Thomases. In fact, I think it was more you kept saying, all we're going to do is get tribal cocoons. Yes, we did. But 70% always voted against him. And that is why he eventually had to leave. 10 years later than he should have, but it is because of that. Even here, have that hope, CT. And this will be such a big step in the next order, because it's new politics. And this order changed. That's why I said the fulcrum of our Kenyan politics changed with Gen Z. With the economic revolution that came out in very clear mandamano, May, June this year, the fulcrum of our politics has changed.
Jimmy, it's not that I'm doubtful. It's just that I've lived long. And
CT.
Yes, and
you've grown home.
He's grown home. Yes, because
he's too much in a box.
Yes, you see, my lived experience with these matters has been this. This freedom we now enjoy is taken for granted because it's our daily staple. What is forgotten is that those who championed it, my friend, were such outliers. They were considered to be so far gone, and whatever they were talking about was even further gone. In fact, it was stratospheric. But here we are today. So what you're saying is not that it is not possible. I am merely pointing to the reality that even with those changes, some of the people who spearheaded those changes metamorphosized into fossils before our very eyes. They became the very people who, in the later years, were fighting the very things they fought for.
Oh, they shed their
they shed their sheepskin.
I think we didn't quite understand the period. It was political liberation.
Okay.
All right? And I can tell you, even those that you're saying were boxed into certain stratospheres and were seeing very far, that became now reticent to those views. Please, they have never supported the breaking of our freedom. Our political gains, no. They have never.
So
they have become conformist because for them, many of them, this is a new era. It's a new revolution. So their time is up. They have done their job. We are able to speak here. Long time ago, would have been shut down long time ago. I would have been arrested before I walked into here.
You wouldn't have left your house.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. So we have those freedoms. Nobody's clawing back on that. William Ruto can't. He's trying. He's got a criminal police unit here. Right? That is, and one day they'll pay for it. These guys are joking. You know, they think it won't come back to them. Itawarudia 100 million times. Okay? 100 million. Yes, 100 million times. In other words, scores of generations of their lives. But let me tell you, they do not understand this period we're in. That's why you feel that way.
No.
They do not understand the economic revolution. It's not theirs. It's not theirs.
Jimmy,
I think it's too much for us to ask them, right, to be any different.
Jimmy, it's not a question of understanding the economic revolution. It's understanding human nature. This really is the point at which I'm speaking from. That everything you say is aspirational and it is good. And I actually think it is wonderful, personally. But knowing human nature as I do, the wolf at the door response and reaction is very different from when the wolf has been not killed, chased away. The urgency and the emergency fades. It goes away. And the likelihood of reverting back to factory settings is usually very high.
The conditioning of the people you're talking about is the same conditioning that started 100 years ago plus. The colonial era input. All they did was be replaced from a white man to a black man. They don't know any other conditioning.
Jimmy,
That is not their. It's not their era.
Jimmy, it's a leap.
Their era. I'm telling you, they cannot leap. They cannot.
No, I'm telling you what.
This is why you get disappointed.
What we're talking about is a leap because
They cannot.
If
By the way,
Jimmy,
they cannot.
If Jimmy, we can't speak truth to power to my MCA.
By the way, they cannot.
There's a local
They have
boy.
grown how? They have grown how? Not on that template. Any new template eradicates them. A new formula eradicates them, so they don't want it. They stick to what they know.
Any new template is form, Jimmy. It's not necessarily substance. It can grow into substance. And that's what one prays for, but it is form. I am throwing a cautionary note.
CT.
Because cautionary.
CT, let me give you a difference. Today, a lot of those leaders do not want to hear CT is a multi-billionaire in dollars. Because you become a threat to their existence in power. Because they believe money gets them power. I'm just giving you an example.
Jimmy, why are you giving,
I'm just giving you
false information?
No, it's not false information. They do not want to hear that you have become a billionaire, a dollar billionaire.
Yes.
Right? And you are a friend of an opposition person such as Jimmy.
Shida.
Oh, utafungwa. Okay? Whereas the models that are now coming are literally about supply side economics, which means that you become the drivers of an economy, not the government. You become the billionaires. And in fact, you can take political direction.
And the government becomes a facilitator.
And, yes, opens up the doors for you. You become that dollar billionaire. Right? And you're allowed to take a position. You're a conservative or you're liberal. Choose your side. You're for more taxes or less taxes. Choose your side. You're for the tax against the rich and the poor not to pay less tax. Choose your side. Okay? This is what is coming. That is not politics they know. That is not an economic model they know.
They know, they don't want to know.
It doesn't suit them.
Yes.
Yes, because this is not what they are conditioned. And it will not keep them in power. So they resist.
Strange,
right?
though.
And
Strange,
they give you lip service.
Strange though, because understanding is what will keep them in power.
Oh, they can't understand this. They can't. It's too heavy.
You see that? No.
Look at any of them.
Yes.
Any of them. Look at the communities that they represent. Who have they built? In terms of the billionaires I'm talking about. In fact, they don't allow it. They kill them. They finish them. Any that come up, they finish them. That's not a template they like. Even competition within their own community.
And we are saying that this is
because
something
we have branded them as tribal chieftains.
So this is something we've had just from the dawn of independence.
Yes. It's the same colonial strategy.
And you're saying that now we're about to break away from this.
Yes, we have to. We have to. And we have a young population that is huge in terms of voting that are not interested in it. It doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for their future.
No.
And they're clamoring out of major political pain. So what happens? This is why I say it's revolutionary method. No, don't shake your head, CT. This is called revolutionary. We are in a revolution. Earlier this year, when we were talking about revolution, CT, how many doubting Thomases were there? Very many.
Yes.
Who could not see it? As far as revolution, even demonstrations in Nairobi were concerned, it was Raila's Preserve, for example. Right? What happened? Nobody has ever seen what we saw. And I've seen demonstrations here since 1992. I've never seen this. It's something that's never seen in this country.
The planet also
and
woke up.
I can assure you, it is not over. This is the moment of change. All the things that you think are cobwebs, are issues, are going to dissipate.
We will be
This
here.
is where we are.
We will be watching.
And we'll be here.
We'll be participating.
Yes.
In commentary around it.
We hope the young people will get the votes to change.
Jimmy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Always
Thank you for
a
having
pleasure.
us.
Thank you for
Season's
tuning in
greetings.
to Kenya's. Oh, yes.
Season's greetings. We're
Yes.
forgetting it's Christmas time.
It's Christmas. Go enjoy the juice.
Asante.
Enjoy yourself.
God bless you all.
Asante sana for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m. See you tomorrow.
More.